The device that we all carry in our pockets every day and depend on to use social media and connect ourselves with friends and family members all over the world can all be accredited to the evolutions of that field by Steve Jobs. If there was one person that demonstrates that hard work will allow you to accomplish anything you want, even if it may be as crazy as the dreams Steve Jobs had. In a time where there was a lack of digital technology, Steve Jobs spent thousands of hours in a garage to create the house name we all carry in our pockets, Apple. The brand people line up outside stores for days to spend hundreds to thousands of dollars on to buy. The first $1 trillion company in history. A brand that we all use and depend on every day. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, revolutionized the way that we look at the business sector forever. I have studied not only Steve Jobs, but the whole company of Apple. I am the proud owner of an iPhone, MacBook, and Apple Watch. I feel I am properly equipped to give my professional input on this topic. Steve Jobs had an incredible influence on the business sector for centuries to come. In this speech, we will discuss about Steve's life, his upbringing, and where he is from. The founder of his company, along with the trials and tribulations he went through, and his everlasting legacy that will go long into the future. Steve had quite an interesting upbringing in the north of California. Steve Jobs revolutionized and manufactured technology like the iPhone 11 you can see here in this picture. Steve Jobs was born February 24th, 1955 in San Francisco, California. Famous for his tech startup out of his garage, he was a brilliant man who had an extraordinary career as Apple's founder and CEO, also as an entrepreneur and investor. He was additionally a majority shareholder in Pixar and a chair member of Walt Disney. Steve was put up for adoption at a young age by two parents who were University of Wisconsin graduates. Later attending Reed College in 1972, after dropping out the same year, he chose to take his time and travel to India to speak enlightenment and study Zen Buddhism. On this slide, you can see the success that Apple achieved in the years after rehiring Steve Jobs as their CEO. This is from the years between 1997 and the year 2016. Wozniak was a close friend of Steve Jobs who co-founded Apple with Steve in 1976. This is Wozniak that you see in the picture on the slide. Wozniak and Jobs founded Apple out of Jobs' family garage in Silicon Valley. They put thousands of long hours using drugs like LSD and marijuana to help inspire their imagination and spike their productivity. With the household name Apple, they were able to make billions of dollars with a variety of products. Additionally, this is the garage that Steve and Wozniak built the company Apple out of. The first computer product by Apple was called the Apple I. This is the computer that you see in the picture on the slide. This computer marketed for $666.66 per computer. This first model fetched Mr. Jobs a fair $774,000, which was enough to reinvest in his company. Mr. Jobs used the money to make the Apple II computer, which was way more successful, having a 700% hike that made him upwards of $137 million. He was able to reinvest this into future products. By year 1980, Apple went public as a stock with an evaluation of 1.2 billion. In 1985, Apple began to phase out Steve and not really give him a position in the company. He later left Apple to start a company called Next. In 1996, Apple bought his tech startup for 429 million and replaced him as the CEO of Apple at the time. With all the success he had there, it's no wonder he receives and deserves all the recognition that he has. In this slide, you can see a quote from Steve Jobs that said, "Your life is limited. Don't spend it living someone else's life." Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had a legacy. Steve Jobs created a legacy in the tech and business field that will last forever. He is considered a legend, and his legacy will carry on forever. Apple seems to have been able to continue to innovate without Steve at the helm. Even with the products that have rolled out since his departure, none of them would be possible without him and the hard work and dedication. He has had such a pronounced impact on the industry that many recognize. Just in this picture, you can see one of the last iPhones that Steve Jobs innovated, along with all the ones that have developed since. In this speech, we have discussed Steve's life's upbringing and where he is from, the founding of his company, along with the trials and tribulations he went through, and his everlasting legacy that will go long into the future. Steve has had an incredible influence on the business sector for centuries to come. From his first computer to his last iPhone, he has created and used his hard work and dedication to create a trillion-dollar company that we all know as Apple. His legacy will last forever, as will the way he revolutionized the business sector.